wrongful purposes, but they typically don't guide classroom practice or pedagogy. And so Matt, I would like to remind everyone that teachers are assessing students on a daily basis, and this assessment of students on a daily basis drives teachers to form the planning and the learning in their classrooms. Often FSA results, by the time teachers get them, they've already moved on to the next learning outcomes. So just wanted to, it seemed to be strong language in that, and I just wanted to clarify that from Matt's position. And then finally, we're going to get some enrollment numbers tonight, and working with the Associate Superintendent, Ms. Wilson, very appreciative of our open conversations regarding some classes that are over class size limits. It is the union's position, although that classes should not be over. They should be under the number that's in place. We understand that we have remedy that follows that, but we really do feel that as much as possible, classes need to be under the ministry guided numbers. And so with that, I'd like to thank everybody and enjoy the evening. Thank you. Ms. Austin.
Thank you very much, Matt. We have CUPE next. Is there anyone here from CUPE? Oops. I don't see anybody from CUPE. If you are, please speak up, but I don't see you off the bat. Okay, not seeing anybody from CUPE. I definitely see folks from DPAC. So can we have DPAC's up?
Hello, DPAC would like to introduce you to this year's 2023-24 school year's DPAC Executive Board. Carrie Kitazaki is the president, Jessica Threlfall as vice president, Angel Delange as secretary and past president, Brenda Fisher as treasurer, Amanda Hastings as director, and Michael Kilburn as director. One of the coolest things about our DPAC executive team is that each individual is also a PAC executive at their own school. So not only do they volunteer their time and passion on one board, they perform double duty on both boards. We want to acknowledge the selfless choice parents and guardians make in volunteering for their PAC executive team. More than a role and individuals, DPAC and PACs take pride in our community and celebrate the Qualicum School District family that we are part of. DPAC thanks the school district for sending out a letter reaffirming their commitment to the educational community and appreciates that you strive to create safe spaces and a sense of belonging to our Qualicum School District. And finally, thank you to everyone involved in putting together this Thursday's Parent Information Night at Bolinas. Building parent, guardian, caregiver awareness about the realities and risks to our youth is something that can benefit all families. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carrie. Elaine, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank DPAC and members of the teachers, MATA. There were some CUPE members there. There were some nurses union members for their support of the Pride demonstration that happened on the weekend. It was really, really both affirming personally and also affirming for the board, I think. I'll speak for the board on this, that so many people came out to support us, although we were missing some people who evidently were in Vancouver. But just thank you so much for continuing that kind of support. It is important, so important for all of our students to feel safe and to feel included and that they belong to our schools. Thank you. And our community.
Thank you, Elaine. Well, moving along then, there are, I don't believe there's any written questions or comments. Those would usually come through Jill. Not hearing that. So next up, Peter, maybe you can just give us a quick little overview before we put the motion on the table of the change in nomenclature for Winchelsea.
Yeah, happy to do that, Vice Chair Austin. I do provide a briefing note, which is in the board package, and we have invited Principal Autumn Taylor to the meeting to speak to the naming and to give a bit of background on the process. In the briefing note, there's just a little bit of a contextual piece there around the reconfiguration process and how Winchelsea Elementary School had been repurposed to serve multiple functions. And I use the informal name of Winchelsea Place because through conversations I learned, I suppose, that a renaming process didn't officially happen at any time. It's just become part of district culture to describe it as such. And it's a home for numerous programs, Indigenous Ed, Inclusive Ed. There's a daycare program that we rent to. It's been storage for football and roams. And of course, the Parksville Alternative Secondary School, or PASS as it's known, as its largest student tenant group. And since then, it's been expanded or different uses have been added, including the addition of Keep office space, and the resource center has now been moved inside. As I mentioned in the briefing note, it is a little bit. It's been densified. There's certainly additional personnel in the building, and we think the culture has become improved and more vibrant as a result. But Autumn Taylor, our PASS and Keep principal, has been in conversation with staff and students, and they have started to call it something else on their own. And the purpose of this motion here, that the Board of Education approve the name Winchelsea Learning Center, comes out of those conversations with students. So with your permission, I'd like to turn the conversation over to her and allow her a few minutes to speak to that.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you everyone for being here. As Peter mentioned, we may have jumped the gun a little bit on our plans and our thoughts around naming the building. When I came to the building 3 years ago, the neat thing about coming into a program that was undergoing a lot of district changes as well as provincial changes was I was able to ask a lot of questions and start asking things about our culture, about our identity, who are we, what do we want to be, what do we stand for in our community, what are the old thoughts of our programs. And the kids kind of spoke up loud and clear about, one, that the building was not only theirs. They were very understanding of that. And back then, the only piece of identification on the building was the wolf and the Pass Woodwinds. And many of our district people were calling the building Pass, when we wanted to respect that there was a number of other programs in the building. So over the 2 years before this year, kids were voicing their opinion. We did go to our Indigenous group to say, what about a name that was more respectful to the land we were on? Since then, I've learned a tremendous amount about that process, and the process of being gifted a name is much different than just asking for one. And so the students didn't like the name Winchelsea Place, even though it wasn't official. They thought it sounded like an old age home. And so we had lots of conversation about that, and they liked the name Learning Center. And so we just started kind of talking about that. And as Keep Elementary joined us the year before, we talked about the diversity in our building, and now with Keep High School as well, Rome's is in the building, DRC is in the building. It's a much more vibrant place, and the kids in the building and the staff in the building, as of last year, really felt that Learning Center was a more appropriate term than place. And so our thoughts about this were solidified at the very end of last year when the DRC was moving in. A staff member came in and said, "Why would you call it a learning center? This isn't what's here about learning." And I was a little bit shocked by that person. And there was a student standing with me. And so we just kind of looked at each other, and I said, "Well, PASS is a learning school. KEEP is a learning school. Learning support has learning right in it. Indigenous education is all about learning. The DRC is about learning for our adults in our system. And we just kind of went on from there. So having Learning Center as a part of our title and that building just felt a little bit more respectful than a word like commons or place. And so we did jump ahead, and I was actually going to send these out to see if we could get some more votes. So Elaine, Julie, Carol, who has Barry, if you'd like a t-shirt, we do have t-shirts made already. I don't know if you can see them. No, probably not. But it does say Winchelsea Learning Center on there. So I said to Peter, I'm like, we better get this started. I bought the t-shirts. And so he's set me up for this particular meeting. And that is kind of our story and how we came to that name. And we're hoping that's going to be something that everybody kind of agrees with and feels that it's representative of what's going on in that building.
Thank you so much, Autumn and Peter. At this time, I think I see that Elaine's hand is up, but I think I'll put the motion on the table and then trustees have an opportunity to ask questions and comment. The motion is that the Board of Education of School District 69 Qualicum approve Winchelsea Learning Center as the official name for the site informally known as Winchelsea Place. I have a moved by Elaine, seconded by Carol. Okay, Elaine.
Yeah, so I had a walk this morning in the rain, Autumn, and I went by the school and I thought, oh, gee, I'd sure like to, I sure should go in, but I didn't have time. What I noticed, and you know this walk, because I've taken you on this walk, is that the students weren't out as they had been in the past doing things that maybe we don't like them to do. And so it was refreshing to go through that walk. I'll be by to pick up a t-shirt, absolutely. And I wish you well. You've done an awesome job, an absolutely awesome job in this. It's really 3 years. It just seems like yesterday, but what a great job you've done over there. So thank you very much. And I wholeheartedly support the motion and wonder if we at some point might want to change the name of PASS, but I'll let you think about that.
Oh, trust me, the conversation has already started. The conversation started with what's Woodwinds. So we had to do a lot of digging to where that name even came from. So there's certainly the PASS one isn't actually, the students don't mind being called PASS and an alternate school. They actually take pride in that, and we are doing some things very differently than what we did before. The Woodwinds program, I believe, used to be a middle school program and younger, and that the kids are asking me, why do we have Woodwinds if Bolinas doesn't have a different name for their grade 8s and 9s? So that's the conversation I'm having now, and that'll be the next conversation I have with you, I'm sure, at some time.
Thank you. Barry and then Carol.
Thanks. I was just curious, Autumn, what the Winchelsea Learning Center would be in Hulkaminum. Anybody had an idea?
No, and so there is actually no word that translates for learning center exactly. Winchelsea is actually a town in Sussex, and the only other piece I could find was it was quite a prominent ship that carried some of our settlers down the Coast Salish Sea to this area. I know it's an island, but that island, from what I understand, and please correct me anyone if I'm wrong, is a part of that colonial naming of that island. It is not a Hulkaminum name. We were gifted the name of Shakopthut for our learning center area, or our main learning center, which means gathering place.
Okay.
So that's been gifted to us, which was very kind, and we're very proud of that piece. So that's our first step. But at this time, there's a lot of discussion about what learning center could translate into.
Right.
But I think we have to earn that name before that name is gifted in lots of different ways.
Because I think up at Bowser, the outdoor center is at Tolnax Lelum. And I think it's something like that too. So it'd be interesting to see what the Hulkaminum translation might be.
Mhm.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Barry.
Carol?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I worked in that building at one point, and I know it's a learning center. And I just think that the name is so appropriate because when I think of Winchelsea Place, I think of a daycare or something. So I completely get where the kids are coming from, and I like the name. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments from trustees? Seeing none, all those in favor in the change of nomenclature? Passed unanimously. Thank you so much. And I
Thank
don't
you, and
think,
please stop by anytime.
and this is not the last, I'm sure, we've heard from there. But that's okay. That's part of the whole process, and we're all learning. So thank you very much, Autumn.
Thanks, Autumn.
So we're going to move on now to the superintendent's report. Peter?
Thank you, Vice Chair Austin. Greetings, everyone. Esquel to all of you out there in the Qualicum School District, or QSD, as I'm starting to use when I want to exercise brevity for a change. The weather is definitely changing. I mean, it's actually really raining out there. The school year is well underway. I'm hearing plenty of positive reports from across the district that things are going well, despite some fairly high staff and student absentee rates these days. Though we do have a few shortages to deal with, overall, we are well staffed compared to the rest of the province at least, and we are in an enviable position of privilege when it comes to recruitment of professional staff, as I often say. Speaking of recruitment, we have a vice principal pool competition on Friday, and we're looking forward to the opportunity to welcome and grow a crew of new educational leaders into those formal roles. Thank you in advance to all of you, many on this call who have volunteered their time to support this critical process as a member of the competition panel. We have a full day planned that starts promptly at 8 a.m. Please don't be late. The good news is that there will be snacks, coffee, and tea and such. Thursday afternoon, we will host our first equity scan session of the school year. We're looking at the new district strategic plan, discussing interview questions for our next Indigenous student survey process, and sharing our recent progress towards truth and reconciliation with a focus on the last week of September, as well as setting some more goals for the coming school year. As I'm sure you all know, the Board of Education approved the Qualicum School District as our new public name officially at last month's regular public meeting, and staff have accelerated their rebranding work in response. The first new door decals have been applied to the white fleet, and I am proud to share the first public picture with you this evening, provided I can get that up on the screen.
Watch my phone, please.
Bear with me if you would.
Oh, my teddy.
Okay.
Hang on a moment.
Wait, been quiet all day.
I'll just remind some people that you might want to think about being on mute. So I really appreciate somebody wanting their teddy.
Okay, hang on a second. Sorry, folks. It's taking a little longer than I'd hoped. There. All right, can we all see that?
Very nice.
We see that now. Let me see if I can zoom in just a wee bit there. Oops, no, that's going to be a problem trying to zoom in, I think. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to stop sharing for now and then go back to my report. Story if I stole your thunder there, Phil. More to follow as the transition process continues. Later this week, I'll pick up the new strategic plan brochures so we can distribute them to schools for staff, students, and parents to review in a hard copy format. Sometimes it's just nice to have that in your hands. For an electronic copy, though, you may find one on our website under About and District Planning and Directions, which also contains video describing our strategic planning process and videos of 90 minutes or so for those who like details, and then the 12-minute version for those who just like the main ideas. And for you folks who like achievement data, feel free to go to the same page and just scroll down and check our most recent Framework for Enhancing Learning publication, which tells the story of our district's achievement over the last 4 years through charts and anecdotes. Also included on this webpage is a slightly revised version of our district technology plan, which will enjoy a more thorough review in the coming year, along with other operational plans in support of our strategic plan, such as the financial plan coming up on the agenda in just a few minutes. Just in regard to achievement, I heard Madam President, Mr. Woods, make a couple of comments about the FSA. And I will say that I guess it's time to remind everyone that we did bring in one of the designers of the FSA a couple of years ago to do a rather fulsome workshop. Actually, we did a morning session and an afternoon session for Madam members who are in the grades that are facilitating the FSA, recognizing that this should be something that we do on a semi-regular basis in order to capture people at turnover. But the session was the session, and it was quite fulsome in my opinion. I think those members that attended were quite pleased about their burgeoning understanding of the assessment and how they might use it. And I will say this: like, if teachers are not using the FSA as a means to guide their practice, I don't think that's an FSA problem, Mr. Woods. I think that's a teacher problem. What a great opportunity squandered if people want to just let that slide by without acknowledging what their kids have been doing on that particular those particular exercises, which are designed to assess the curriculum. There are another number of other quick updates for all of you regarding enrollment, learning, and more, which the team will provide next, as I often do. I want to say thank you to all of our staff for their hard work and enthusiasm this October. It feels positive and things look and sound to be on track, and that is because of everyone out there in the system. Great job, everyone. It's SEPCA, and I thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Any questions from trustees for Peter? Okay, thank you. Well, moving on to Associate Superintendent Jillian Wilson and the enrollment report. This seems to be the thing that keeps the penny that keeps showing up. But what's lovely is every time we've heard about enrollment over the last month and a half, it's always had a different angle or view, whether it's from how we use the numbers in terms of budget or programming. So even though we've heard about it a lot, it's always had a little different flavor to it. So Jillian?
So I'll add a new flavor today and talk a little bit about how the numbers drive and make us reflect on how we do some staffing. But first of all, I do want to comment that we did receive our ECHO report this past week, and we are 4 students less than what the original report came in. The ECHO reports sometimes pick up students who have decided to move districts late in the game. And so 2 districts often are in, I won't say competition, but in that who's got the file on the count day, which was September 29th this year. So we had 4 students who had chose to go to different programs or had moved at the end of the month, and another school district picked them up. So that's what we pick up on our ECHO report. But one of the things I do want to share with you, and I had a meeting with Madam President today, and I think it's a good news story. Part of the collective agreement language with BCTF is to make sure that we have what's called non-enrolling ratios for teachers. There's some very old language still attached to some of the positions that we talk about. So for example, in the language that we still have between BCTF and the province, they talk about special needs and special education. We don't use that terminology in our district, or in most districts don't use that terminology, but there's still some old language in there. And so when I talk about a non-enrolling teacher, those are teachers who provide support in different ways. They're not classroom teachers that have a group of children in front of them every day as what we would know as a classroom teacher and their learning environment. So we take a look at what we call learning support teachers. We take a look at our district staff that provide support for learning. So that might be your speech and language pathologist, deaf and hard of hearing teacher, vision teacher, occupational therapist. We also have a physiotherapist, and anything that we do with SET BC. So we add all of the number of FTE that's assigned, so the full-time equivalent teaching that's assigned to each school, and come up with a number in terms of what we spend and what the collective agreement language says that we have to spend. We do that for learning support. We do the same process for any teachers teaching English language learners. We do the same for counseling. And we also do the same for librarians. So what is our full-time equivalent in terms of our teaching for librarians? We finish that process. We have to do a snapshot and we share it with our local president for what we had in staffing on September 30th. So when I go to our counseling and I look at what our original number that I looked at, I still included those 4 that we did not get. We look at 4,408 students. We're required to provide, in terms of counseling, 6.36 staffing for that particular number of students that we would have in our system. So that's what we're required to do based on our collective agreement and our language that we have between BCTF. What we have in our district for counseling is 11.1 FTE. So that's well over what we're required to do, and that's a credit to this board that's always prioritized counseling and making sure we're providing that support. For learning support, we combine, because we don't say they're a special needs teacher, a special education teacher, a learning assistant teacher used to be old language. We call all of our staff learning support staff. We're required to have, based on our numbers, 21.6 FTE, and we currently have 32.14 FTE in our system. So again, we're well above what we're required to have, and that talks about how we provide some support through our needs-based budgeting that we do every year. For our English language learners, we will be required, based on the ratio that we have and the number of learners that are English language learners in our system, 1.68 FTE, and we currently have 2.3 FTE in our system. In terms of teacher librarians, based on our FTE, we're required to have 6.28, and we currently have 6.3 FTE in our system. So now we've got our enrollment. We work on the data that I've just shared with you, and I'm pleased to say that we're over what we're required to do because we look at that needs-based budgeting and needs-based staffing around that.
Thank you very much, Jill. Are there any questions for Jillian on this? It is good news, so thank you. Elaine?
Yeah, just to follow up just with the counselor ratios, because I kind of know those really well. We're still the provincial ratio in the contract is over 600 full-time equivalents, right? And we're staffing at around 300 and something full-time equivalents, right?
I've actually not done that math. We look at needs, as you know.
Yeah.
You know, numbers don't always equal the same needs, and I think
Right.
you've demonstrated that with the staffing we've put in one of our elementary schools, for example, for several years because the need was presented at that particular site. But we're well. The other part that I think that we do really well in our system is you hear of counselors in other jurisdictions who are in multiple sites, not just 2
Yes.
sites, but multiple sites. And each of our counselors are in one site, with the exception of one who also does some district work along her site that she works in.
Yeah, the point I want to make about this is we are different from other districts. And believe me, having counseled in a number of different districts, our ratios are better than in some other districts. I still think that we have some advocacy to do around making the province understand how important non-enrolling teachers are in general and counselors specifically, because still over 300 is a big caseload for a counselor. So I think we do well, and I'd like to encourage the board to continue to advocate for the right kind of support in the right areas and for needs-based budgeting. And that's my rant for tonight.
Thank you, Elaine. It's always good to be reminded of that. It's never a rant. Any other comments from trustees? Okay, we can move on to the class size report. Matt referred to this in his presentation, so get the details now.
Yeah, and you can see on page 17 and 18 the class size report. We do have one of our sites that has more than usual, and so that does create some questions and some curiosities. We have an anomaly with our grade 10 cohort at that particular site where it's a higher number than it usually is, and to be able to provide all of the choices and options that student wanted to take with some of their elective classes. When they do combine classes with the 9s and 10s, it created a little bit of timetabling issues and timetabling concerns. I also want to point out that in the English components of that particular timetable, that is a 2-credit course. So there's a 2-credit and a 2-credit, which is a 4-credit for their English 10. So it is one group of children that are seen twice on that page, because as you know now, the English credits are done a little bit differently than they were before. So it's one group that are taking the 2 credits and then the other 2 credits in the same block. Just wanted to share with that. I won't deny, as the president of the association said, it is an anomaly for us. We usually are within, and it's usually the band program that are the ones that I hire, and perhaps a senior science or math class that we try and fit everybody in so they don't have to wait a semester. They want to do it in the first semester. So it is an anomaly for us and something that we are looking at and working through.
Thank you very much, Jill. Any questions or comments from trustees? Seeing none, we can move on to the educational programs update with Jill and our Director of Instruction, Rudy Terpstra.
Good evening, everyone. Just a few anecdotes to add to a fulsome report from the Education Committee already in the minutes. First, I wanted everyone to know that the French Advisory Committee, Education Technology Committee, and the Assessment and Communicating Student Learning Committees are all up and ready to roll starting in November, December. And we're happy to have our ratified teachers join those committees, as well as our administrators, and get on with the work of those committees through this year. I also mentioned a couple times the Qualicum Learns portal. This is the teacher resource side of the staff page. We've made some adjustments there that hopefully it's a little bit easier for people to find what they're looking for. And we've rebranded it as the Qualicum Learns portal, fitting in more with our new name. Also happy to talk about Provincial Pro D that we had this Friday. We had a large amount of teachers participating in really great conferences, both virtually and live. In fact, it was so subscribed that a couple of the sites had technical difficulties streaming their speakers because there was like 1,000 attenders at these conferences. And I had to mention Justice Murray Sinclair was keynote speaker at the BC English Language Arts Teacher, which was really had a big echo boom out in social media. And I believe it may have been his last public speech. So that was well heard throughout the province. And my last point is just that the teaching and learning team, learning support, Indigenous education team, myself, and really all of our principals and senior administrators look forward to supporting and planning learning around our student data and our student stories as we go forward to the end of fall and into the winter, and plan how we can support not only our kids in classes, but our teachers in learning to support those kids. So that's the work that's coming up for the education team. And I'll pass it over to Associate Superintendent Wilson.
Again, just a couple of things, because we do such an amazing job at sharing at the Ed Committee. Sometimes it feels like we repeat some of the things. But I do want to thank Sheila Morrison for the work she's doing around early learning. She's very active looking at opportunities. As recently as last Wednesday, it came out through a district message to the ministry around a new initiative that other districts have had to be able to support transitioning into kindergarten. And you've heard me talk about the program we piloted last year. So this funding, if we get it, will be able to support some of that work that I've mentioned to you on a couple of occasions. And again, I really want to acknowledge the work that she's doing around that. Thank you for mentioning the parent night, Deepak. We are excited to have our community come together to talk about things that are going on with youth in our community. It's so important to know and not have our heads in the sand, and to make sure we also understand what resources are available out there. So a big thanks to Ian Hay, who is our district social worker, and his connections and bringing in some folks to be able to do that. It was really well attended. I thought it was it's a bit like a date night, the one we had in May. We had lots of parents come together and sit. We had a couple of students come with their parents, but predominantly parents, and listen to the presenters together. So we're hoping for a big response as well this coming event, and please spread the word. Our kindergarten snapshots have finished, and that's part of some of the data that Director Terpstra talked about. Our teachers are doing the school reviews, and I've shared this at the Ed Committee as well. It's a process that was pretty unique to our system and the work that we're doing, and we should be proud of wanting to learn a little bit more about who our learners are at such an early or young age. Feeding Futures is one that I'm going to give you a little bit of a snapshot of what we're doing, but I would appreciate waiting until November or perhaps December and give you a more fulsome report in what we're doing up until that point. Credit to our principals and vice principals for the work they've been doing to collect information. Big kudos to our HR department, who have supported when we said we need some more staffing to be able to do some of this work. And our organization has worked truly as a team. Superintendent Jory talked a little bit last time that we have been working with Nanaimo Food Share, which is a not-for-profit organization in Nanaimo that gets a variety of different grants to be able to provide food to the Nanaimo community and expanding it out into the Oceanside community. And so they deliver between 100 and 150 lunches to Springwood Elementary School 3 times a week. And then we have runners that run throughout our district to be able to take those lunches back to their schools. We've also added staffing to some of our sites to be able to support making of the lunches. It's wonderful that the ministry has given us this opportunity to be able to feed our children and families, but it needs somebody to do the doing. They don't just magically make themselves, or the food is not automatically there. So we do need staff to be able to do that part. And so we have increased hours, and in a couple of sites we've posted positions to be able to help with this particular initiative, recognizing that this year is our year to figure it out and to be able to look at what it is that we are doing and how we can learn from this year in terms of what comes next. It's a significant amount of money, and we want to do it well. We want to do it properly. All of our schools are worked on who are the kiddos and families that need the support, who are the students that need some breakfast, who are the students that need lunch, and who are the students that need to be on our backpack program. And how can we enrich our backpack program, looking at perhaps monthly deliveries rather than just the weekly deliveries, which is a lot for the little tykes to take home with them on the bus sometimes. So work in progress. We are doing the hard work, we're doing the thinking, we're doing the, hey, that didn't work, we need to regroup and figure out something else. And big credit to our administration, that our principals and vice principals that are doing that. So I would like to come back in December and share a little bit more with you around what the details are behind it and how we're using, how we've been using the dollars up to that point. And that's it for now.
Thank you so much, Jillian and Rudy. Yes, we always have so much on our educational programs update, and that's as it should be. Elaine, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I had heard, I just want to check this rumor because you said food share. And what I had heard was loaves and fishes. So correct me if I'm wrong. Which one is it?
You're correct for both. It
Oh,
is
okay.
Nanaimo Food Share, but Nanaimo Food Share also work with Loaves and Fishes. But the organization that is actually doing the delivery is Nanaimo Food Share, and they're not for profit organization themselves. And I do know that they work in partnership. I don't know the details around it, but they do work with Loaves and Fishes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for your reports. At this point, I will turn it over to Trustee Young for her Finance and Operations Committee report.
Yes. So we had a good Finance and Operations Committee of the whole report. We don't have the really long report that Trustee Austin does so well for the Education Committee, but basically we kind of lay out what we do. And at the end of the meeting, we talked about whether we were going to do a recommendation around the financial plan or not. We decided not, and then we decided afterwards that maybe we should receive that report. I will move it, and then I'd like to speak a bit to it, if that's okay. That the Board of Education of School District 69, oh, come on, you guys. I guess we have to do it that way. The Board of Education of School District 69 Qualicum received the Qualicum School District, there you go, 2023 to 2026 financial plan as presented.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder? Carol. Thank you.
Yeah, so to speak to this, I just want to highlight that this is a really interesting, well, I found it very interesting document. And it's a planning document. So like our strategic plan, we're starting, instead of kind of looking at how things are now and maybe how things are next year, we're trying to kind of move out a little bit and go, okay, well, how are things going to be in 3 years? What could 5 years look like? So I would really encourage people to read through the report and to think about it in some detail. The reports are looking really good, and that's thanks to Sherry and to the other senior staff members who are making them look good. And I just think it's just worth saying that these things are really important. That's it.
Thank you, Elaine. Yes, we had Ron walked us through this at the Finance and Ops Committee. Do you have anything to add, Ron, further to that committee?
Yeah, sorry. The only thing I'd add is it's not necessarily something that we've created on our own. It was certainly with support from the ministry and their perspective of the need for transparency with public presentations, the need for transparency in terms of don't just talk about it at budget, talk about it throughout the year. And likewise, the importance of tying your finances back to the education strategic planning process. And so really, this is all about that. I started talking about it at our budget because it was a mandate or a topic of discussion at the ministry provincial table that districts needed to do this. It wasn't thought about whether or not it was going to be required at this point. That was still up in the air, and it's still not required, but it's truly a good thing, and it will likely become required after this year. We're getting ahead of the game in the sense of taking it on and seeing how it looks and sharing it with the public and sharing it with our board because it's a good thing. Again, if nothing else, it serves for the transparency required to tie those two elements. It also, for ourselves with a new strategic plan and the logo kind of thing, it all sort of dovetails with the work that Superintendent Jory is leading leading with the board and tying a lot of these things together for business planning, for forecasting, for strategic planning, we'll get into a facility review this year. But again, transparency and tying it all together for the educational purposes. That's it.
Thank you, Ron. Any further questions or comments on this? And then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much, folks. Now I'm going to turn this over to Trustee Kellogg for the Policy Committee report.
Thank you very much, Trustee Austin. So Policy Committee of a Whole report. A, Administrative Procedures to Policy 603, Employee Attendance Support. This is just for information. It's an administrative procedure policy, and the information is on page 44 to 46. Carrying on. B, Board Bylaw 2, Board Structure. Recommendations that the Board of Education, School District 69, approve first reading to adopt the revision to Board Bylaw 2, Board Structure at its regular board meeting of October 24th, 2023.
So moved by Trustee Kellogg. I'm gonna have a seconder. Trustee Young, thanks. Any questions or comments on this policy? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you. Passed.
C, Board Bylaw 3, Meetings of the Board. Recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 69, Qualicum, approve first reading to adopt the revision of Board Bylaw 3, Meetings of the Board at its regular board meeting of October 24th, 2023.
So moved by Trustee Kellogg. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you. Thank you, Barry. And any comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor? Thank you. Passed unanimously.
D, Board Bylaw 4, Banking. Recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 69, Qualicum, approve first reading to adopt the revision of Board Bylaw 4, Banking, at its regular board meeting of October 24th, 2023.
Thank you. So moved by Trustee Kellogg. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Trustee Young. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Passed. Barry? Oh, thank you. Passed unanimously.
E, Board Policy 103, New Repurposed Facilities. Recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 69 approve first reading to adopt the revisions of Board Policy 103, New Repurposed Facilities, at its regular board meeting of October 24th, 2023.
So moved by Trustee Kellogg. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Trustee Young. Now you guys got it. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay, passed unanimously.
F, Board Policy 600, Personnel. Recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 69, Qualicum, approve second reading to adopt the revisions of Board Policy 600, Personnel, at its regular board meeting of October 24th, 2023.
Thank you. So moved by Trustee Kellogg. Can I have a seconder? Oh, you guys lost it. Come on, Barry Early. Thank you, Trustee Kurland. Any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Passed unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, on this next one, I just want to make a comment before on Bylaw 1. Noted that the Quatlet Regional District still shows as Powell River Regional District. So those, we're going for the third and final reading, and the correction will be made. So that being said, Bylaw 1, Board of Education, recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 69, Qualicum, approve a third and final reading to adopt the revisions of Board Bylaw 1, Board of Education, at its regular board meeting of October 24th, 2023.
Barry's turn.
So moved by trustee Kellogg. Can I have a seconder?
Oh,
Thank
Barry,
you,
thank you.
trustee Curlin. Any comments or questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Passed unanimously. Thank you.
Good catch there, Carol, about the change in the name. Never thought about it.
Actually, Karen caught it.
Oh, way to go,
And she
Karen.
passed it on to me. So thank you very much, Karen. Thanks, everybody. I think trustee Austin's frozen.
Uh-oh, right when she's doing her report too. Shall we pretend that we're trustee Austin? She does such good reports though. So they're on page 73 to 75.
5.
Yeah, and the education committee of the whole reports are always really, really good. And we really appreciate that trustee Austin knows how to put those live links in and gets the PowerPoints and all that good stuff.
Right.
Okay.
This doesn't look like it's a standard sort of lag in the internet. It looks like what happened to me today, where my computer rebooted, and so it may take her a few minutes to get back online.
Right.
Perhaps with the indulgence of the audience, we could just acknowledge that we're taking a brief recess to give her a few minutes to kind of come back online.
Well, actually, the lights are flickering here too. So they may have gone out where she is.
Huh.
I don't think you'd see her at all, but the lights are flickering at the board office as well.
I would suggest we carry on. Somebody take the place of the chair and we move along.
I can do that. So, okay, Ron?
Yeah, I don't know. Because we don't have a vice chair. That's the issue. Otherwise, we would have just sort of handed the gavel to the vice chair.
Yeah.
If again, sometimes the ST would take over. Again, there's not much. There's not much more to finish up on. Obviously, the education committee is included in the package. Again, trustee Austin does a great job.
Do we still have a quorum?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Well, there's there's no motions necessarily coming forward, other than we'll eventually get to an adjournment motion. But yes, if you're okay with it carrying on.
A notice from Julie here saying somebody take over. So take over there, Ron.
Okay.
Take it.
Okay, I will.
You did.
Okay. So carrying on, education report is in the package, duly submitted. Reports from representatives from outside organizations. I don't believe there's anything beyond. Yeah, there's nothing else in there.
No.
And then Vista Conference, trustee Kellogg, would you like to report out anything beyond the included report?
Nope. I'll just let it stand as that report.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, and so obviously good representation from the superintendent and the board. New and unfinished business. I don't believe there's anything added. No new correspondence or media. Public questions. We're now at that time where we can take public questions. This is easy. Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Carol.
So moved, Kellogg. Thank you, trustee Kellogg. And thank you everyone for your attendance. Yeah, be careful out there. There is snow, I can attest to. That's where your shaking electricity is about probably. But anyways, have a good night, Evie, everyone, and take care.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks
Well done, Mr. Amos. That was a good save.
That's good. It's snowing in Arrington.